You've probably heard of Atomic Habits by James Clear. I mean, it's not just a book, right? It's a global phenomenon. It promises this simple, proven way to build good habits, break bad ones, and basically change your life. But here's the question. Is its framework truly revolutionary, or is it just incredibly well-packaged common sense? Let's get into it.
And look, the hype it's just impossible to ignore. As one Reddit user put it so perfectly, the book gets so much praise by pretty much everyone on this planet. I mean, when you hear that, it sets some pretty massive expectations before you even crack open the first page.
And the numbers? Oh, they absolutely back it up. We're talking over 25 million copies sold worldwide. This isn't just some self-help book that has a good month. No, this is a full-on cultural touchstone that has seriously reshaped how millions of people think about their own progress and self-improvement. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at the core promise of the book. Then, we'll dive into its famous 4 laws. After that, we'll get into the deeper stuff, the idea of identity change. Then we'll tackle that overrated debate. And finally, we'll wrap up with the key takeaway about building your own personal system.
So, what's the big idea here? What's got millions of people so hooked? Well, at its heart, Atomic Habits is all about the power of getting just 1% better every single day. Clear's argument is that these tiny atomic improvements start to compound over time, leading to these remarkable, almost unbelievable results. It's such an empowering idea, right? That huge change is totally possible just by starting incredibly small.
Okay, so that's the big picture. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty, the book's tactical core, the 4 laws of behavior change. This is the practical framework designed to make building new habits as straightforward as possible. All right, law number 1, make it obvious. The idea here is that every single habit you have, good or bad, starts with a trigger, what Clear calls a cue. So if you want to build a new good habit, the goal is to make the cue for it totally unavoidable. You want to design your environment so you don't even have to think about starting. And he gives us 2 super simple ways to do this. First up is habit stacking. This is genius. You just glue a new habit onto one you already do. So, for example, after I make my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. The other one is environment design. You want to run in the morning? Okay, lay out your running clothes the night before. You're making the right choice, the most obvious choice. All right, moving on to law number 2, make it attractive. I mean, let's be real. A habit is just not going to stick if you dread doing it, right? This law is all about engineering a genuine craving so that the behavior becomes something you actually look forward to. So how do you do that? Well, you can kind of hack your own motivation. One way is temptation bundling. This is awesome. You pair an action you need to do with an action you want to do. For instance, after I clear my inbox, I will watch 1 episode of my favorite show. Another really powerful way is to just join a culture where your desired habit is totally normal. Our brains are wired to fit in, so use that to your advantage. And this brings us to law 3, make it easy. And honestly, this one might be the most important. We are just fundamentally lazy creatures. We're wired to take the path of least resistance. So instead of trying to muscle through with pure willpower, the much smarter move is to lower the friction for your good habits and, raise it for your bad ones. You can do this by priming your environment, right? Like if you chop up all your veggies for the week on Sunday, you're way more likely to eat healthy. And then there's this other brilliant little trick, the 2-minute rule. You just scale down any new habit so it takes less than 2 minutes to do. Read every day becomes read 1 page. The goal here isn't mastery, it's just to show. And that leads us to the final piece of the puzzle, law 4, make it satisfying. Here's the thing about our brains, they crave immediate gratification. The problem is that the rewards for most good habits are way off in the future. So this law is all about closing that gap, making sure you feel an immediate sense of success. Because what gets rewarded right away gets repeated. So you gotta give yourself a little win right away. It could be something small, like putting some money in a vacation jar every time you skip buying a coffee out. Or, and you've probably seen this, you can use a habit tracker. You know that little dopamine hit you get from checking off a box on a calendar? That's surprisingly powerful. You're giving your brain a win right now. But here's where the book gets really interesting, because it moves beyond just simple rules. The argument is that these 4 laws, they're just the vehicle. The real destination, the thing that makes change stick for good, is shifting your identity. Clear has this great way of visualizing it, kind of like an onion. On the outside layer, you've got your outcomes, that's what you get. Go a layer deeper and you have your process, that's what you do. But right at the core,
At the very center, that's your identity. It's what you believe about yourself. And he argues that real, lasting change has to come from the inside out. And this is a huge mental shift. Most of us, we set goals based on outcomes, right? I want to lose 20 pounds. But the identity-based approach completely flips that on its head. The goal becomes, I want to become the type of person who is active and healthy. You focus on being that person, and the results, well, they just naturally follow.
And the way you do this? It's beautifully simple. Step 1, decide what type of person you want to be. Step 2, prove it to yourself with small wins. Every single time you do that tiny habit, you're casting a vote for that new identity.
Okay, so you've got this really powerful, really elegant system, 4 laws to build the habits, and this deeper principle to change your identity. It's an amazing combination that's led to millions of sales and just near universal praise. But you know what happens when something gets this popular, right? The counter question starts to bubble up online. Is this whole thing actually revolutionary, or is it just common sense, packaged up really, really well? And this quote from a Reddit thread just nails the core of that criticism. The user said, the entire book can be summarized in 3 bullet points. If you want to do something, do it. Split your objectives into smaller, manageable tasks, and then, no matter what, do the bloody tasks. It's a fair question, isn't it? Is the book just making something simple sound overly complicated?
But then, right in that same conversation, someone else jumped in with this fantastic counterpoint. They argued, I could say, just do it or exercise, but you already knew that. It doesn't impact you the same way or instill the mindset to encourage you to actually follow through. That's what a book does. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Knowing what to do and knowing how to actually get yourself to do it, they are 2 totally different things.
So where does all this leave us? Well, the final verdict really boils down to one central idea from the book.
This is maybe the most famous line in the entire book, and for good reason. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Let that sink in for a second. The idea here is that success isn't about these heroic bursts of motivation or even about setting big, ambitious goals. It's about having a reliable, repeatable system that makes progress the default option. And that, right there, is the answer to the whole common sense debate. The power of Atomic Habits isn't that it's full of brand new secrets nobody's ever heard of. Its real genius is in organizing and systemizing those simple, timeless truths. It acknowledges that our brains, when faced with too many choices, often just choose to do nothing. So by giving you a clear, simple framework, basically an instruction manual for common sense, it gets rid of all that mental friction and decision fatigue that so often stops us in our tracks. For millions of people, that's the missing piece. So I'll leave you with this one last thought. A really provocative question that Clear himself asks. What's the real goal here? He gives this warning. Don't let a proxy become the target. The goal isn't really to build a habit of reading more books. The goal is to become a learner. The habits, they aren't the destination. They're just the system that's going to get you there.